Hi guys, this is Krista from Mosaic Party and Event Design, and today I have a super easy party decor craft that I want to show you all. I am hosting a Mexican fiesta backyard party in a couple of weeks and want to build out a backdrop. So I was trying to think of something bright and colorful and textural that I could add to that backdrop to give it a little bit of life. So I came up with these one-sided party poms that I can add some double-sided tape and attach it to backdrop panels. So I'm going to talk about the coloring process and the supplies that you need for that. I'm going to talk about how to build and construct these. And then I'm going to give a quick demonstration on how I'm mounting them and how I hang my panels for backdrops. Just on a smaller scale so that it fits on the camera, but you'll get the idea. So first things first, let's talk about supplies. You will need basket coffee filters. Now the size of your coffee filters is going to determine the size of your palm. This is roughly a 6-inch palm, and you can also do them larger. This is because this is a smaller coffee filter that I'm working with today. It is a 4-cup, I believe. Yeah. It's a 4-cup basket coffee filter. I get a pack of 100 of these at the local dollar store for $1.25. You'll need about 20 coffee filters to make one palm in this size. If you get the 8-cup or 12-cup or the industrial basket size coffee filters, you can make a much larger palm, but you're going to need more coffee filters and kind of figure out the quantities you need as you go with that one. But for now, you'll need 20 of these ones. So you will also need some tacky glue, and I always keep my glue in a little glass upside down so it's always ready to pour. You will need some scissors. You will probably find a paintbrush handy. Not absolutely necessary, but it is going to come in handy at a later construction process. You will also need a piece of cardstock or cardboard paper. That is going to give us our backing. So that it's a bit of a firmer surface that we can mount these. And for that, you'll also need a pencil and then something to draw the shape of your backing. So I am using a bowl, as you can see, and all you need to do is make sure that whatever you're using to trace out as a stencil fits inside the size of a flattened coffee filter. You will also need some food coloring and water. This is a gel food coloring from Wilton. You can also use AmeriColor or any other kind of food coloring that you can find, but I do recommend that you use the gel food coloring because of how it dissolves and melts into your water and because of the pigmentation that it offers. Some of those cake decorating ones that you find in the grocery store, the little squeeze bottles, they're very, very weak and you're going to need a lot of the color to get a saturation. I'm also going to talk about the coloring process and some little added tips and tricks you can do to get a deeper, stronger color that holds in the coffee filters nicely. So let's get started with that. I'll just get myself organized. So we're going to keep the food coloring out and we're going to protect our surface. So I'm going to lay down a piece of parchment paper. You can also use wax paper. And I've already pre-mixed my colors, but I'll talk about the quantities and how I've done that. I'm working with this sort of rosy fluorescent pink, which is on the inside of my coffee filters. And of course this buttercup sort of golden yellow. And just to show you what our end result is here is I'm looking to color my coffee filters like this. It's almost like a tie-dyed effect. Super easy. And how I'm doing that is I'm taking about 1/4 teaspoon of my gel food coloring and putting it in a bowl, and I'm just diluting it a tiny little amount with water just to make sure that it dissolves all nicely because sometimes it can clump up. And before I add more water to get it this sort of thin consistency, I'm adding a little bit of glue all to that. Now this is an optional step. You do not need to do this, but it does help you get a brighter, deeper saturation color, especially in these basket coffee filters, which are very translucent. So what this is, it's not to be confused with tacky glue or school glue. It is a high bond multi-purpose glue. You can also get a large tub at your hardware store of the Carpenter's crafting glue, and it's just a really strong formula. It dries fast. I'm using a 1/4 teaspoon of food coloring and a 1/4 teaspoon of this, and I'm mixing them together. And then I'm adding water to thin it down into this watery dye. Now, obviously, the more water that you add, the more translucent and thin your color is going to be. So how I'm doing these, pardon me, frog in my throat. How I'm doing these is you're going to take a stack of coffee filters, not too many. I would recommend probably no more than 15. And I'm going to do the center color first, that pink, and I'm just dipping it in. And I'm not holding it in there. And if you notice that it starts creeping up too high, because it will keep saturating in, I just quickly squeeze out the excess. You can see it soaks up really quickly. If your stack of coffee filters is too thick, you'll find that the center ones don't get as saturated. So that's why I recommend no more than about 15 coffee filters. I'm then scrunching it up and doing my yellow. And you can see it's going to keep seeping up towards that pink, but you can help it along by squishing and squeezing it because there's a lot in there. And then I get rid of the excess. This is going to help make sure that you don't get any blotching as it dries. And when you open it up, you have coffee filters that are colored and ready to dry. So for the drying process, I leave them in their stack, and I lay them flat on the parchment paper or wax paper, and I let them dry overnight. These were done yesterday, and you can see even when they're stacked together, they dry beautifully, and you'll find that they'll be easier to pull apart once they're dry. You could go through now and pull them one by one apart, but it's a little bit tedious, and it's just easier to let them dry in their stacks. I know some people recommend to lay them on like a baking rack. I don't recommend this. What's going to happen is if you lay it on anything other than a flat surface, you're going to get the lines of pigmentation and color and water that draw towards those lines or in between them of the rack, and you'll get funny marks and blotching on your coffee filters. So it's as easy as that. I'm going to set those aside to dry. And we're going to move on to the construction. So, as you already know, I have a bunch of these ready to go. And what we're going to do is you need 20 of them. I'm just going to move something out of the way there. Okay. You're going to need 20 of them. You'll need to set aside 1 for your base, 3 for your center, and then you'll need 16 to do the ruffles. And before we get started with that, I guess I should quickly make my cardboard base. So all I'm going to do is take that bowl or tracing utensil, whatever you're going to use. And of course, this is self-explanatory. You're going to take your card stock paper. I've gone a little bit off the edge there, but I'm not too worried. And you're going to quickly cut that out. Not like that. We're going to finish this a bit better. I just find it's easier to get rid of all the excess paper around it, so I'm not contending with it with my hand in the way. You know what's funny too is I actually have a circle cutter tool. I think it's a Martha Stewart line. It's really handy. It just quickly cuts out circles of any shape or size that you want. And I never use it. I always end up reverting to stencils. So, all right. So that's the first thing that you need to do. Now you can go to your coffee filters. And like I said, you want to put 1 aside for your base, 3 for your center, and then the rest are going to be for your ruffles. We're going to quickly glue down our center, and I'm just going to apply a decent amount of glue to the center, and you can use your paintbrush to spread that around. I have food coloring on mine. I forgot to rinse my paintbrush. It's okay, it's going to be hidden, but now my paper is going to be wet. So I'm going to add just a little bit more glue to counter that. My rule of thumb is if you're not making a mess, then you're not a true crafter. I am always making a mess. And you'll hear me say that in almost every single one of my videos. All right, and you're going to just lay down your coffee filter, however you find it easiest, onto that. And that's going to be our base to work with. You know, let that set aside to dry. If it's curling on you, just counter it however you want by rolling or shaping it. And we've got our 3 set aside for our center. So what we want to do is make these little ruffle shapes. And I've got a bunch already pre-done here, as you can see, just for the magic of the video. But we want to make these little, I don't know what they would be, like little florets or something. And it's super easy. All you're going to do is take just a small amount of glue. You don't need a lot. And you're going to put it in the center. And you're just going to do that. You don't have to really squeeze or press it tight. You just need a general sort of cone floret shape. And you're going to go through and make a bunch of these. You'll need 16 for 1 palm, but if you're making a bunch of palms, you might as well just sit here and do them all at the same time. And we'll just do 1 more. So I just pinch and squeeze, and then I just open it up a bit. So you want to make a bunch of those. And I already have a bunch aside here all ready to go. So I'll be working with those. Take your base that we just created, and we're going to lay 10 of these on this base. Now you may find it easier to fold in half and just get a guide mark so that you know you're going to do 5 and then 5 more. You'll get kind of the most even spacing that way, however works for you. And all we're going to do is a little bit of glue. You can also just put glue in a dish and use your paintbrush. Which might be easier. And you just want to spread some of that out. And from your center point, what you want is your ruffles to be in line with your edge, and press that down. You can stick your fingers inside and press it down if you need to. You just want that bottom layer to kind of attach. You can kind of glue a couple of sections at a time, but I don't recommend doing more than that because the glue will dry. And lay that down. And don't worry too much about the shape of it right now, as long as you're following your outside shape. You can fluff it up later. Our goal right now is to just get them to lie down. And then you're just going to continue that. I'm actually just going to go through and glue this whole half because I'm working fairly quickly. I would recommend only doing a little bit at a time if you're going to learn or just be fussy with it. just so that it doesn't dry out on you. Okay, and you can kind of flatten down that center point. You could also do a different kind of center and create like a floral effect if you wanted to put a fringe in there. But what we're going to do is we did 10 here. I believe I did 10. If I didn't, no, I didn't. You do want 10 for this size coffee filter to make sure that it is nice and full when you sort of fluff it out later. So we did 10 on the bottom, and then we're going to do 6 on the inside. And if you want something a little more denser, you can do more and squish them all together. If you want something a little looser, there's no right or wrong here. All right, so when I get to the inside ones, you're gonna just paint over top. I'm gonna work only half at a time. If you paint over top, it'll help make sure that those are all adhered on the bottom, plus your ones on top. So we're gonna go. And you're gonna come in just a little bit, still lining up with the edge, but you wanna create that dome. 1, 2, 3, and we'll do the other half. You could also use a hot glue gun. I find that this just helps seal them all in a bit better than hot glue. And I don't have to worry about burning my fingers, which I notoriously do every time I use a hot glue gun. Plus, this makes it a good craft for kids if you're not using a hot glue gun. All right, so we have a palm that is almost fully domed, but we need those center ones. So we're going to take those 3 center ones I mentioned earlier, and we're going to add a little bit of glue to the center of 2 of them and just press them together, and then that 3rd one on top. And then I'm going to take whatever you have handy that is sort of a 1.5 or 2 inch center, something that'll fit in the center of your palm. And I'm going to use that to just kind of help me shape those so that I have a base. And I'm going to glue that. I'm running out of glue in my little dish here into the center. I'm going to just glue all over my fingers. And you're just going to press that in. You might want to squish these down a little bit. So you can see I'm creating a little base here and squishing them down, just so that they're not too high and you don't have to fuss with them too much later. And then just press those down. And I would wait till it dries, but what you'll want to do when it does dry is just sort of pull those apart, because they'll all be layered together pretty well. And you can give them a little twist and little extra ruffles in there. And then you just do the same thing with the rest of the palm. You just give them a little twist, fluff it up, and you have a party palm, a one-sided party palm for wall hanging or centerpiece planning if you want to sit them on a table. Super easy little project. And this is why you want to wait till they dry, because you will pull them apart if you play with them too much. Well, it's still down. Very easy. And to attach them onto a backdrop, what I use for my backdrops generally, and this is just a smaller cut piece, but this is foam core. You get this, I get it at the dollar store. I actually buy big boxes of them. They're only $1 at the dollar store, but you can also go to Walmart or the craft stores and they always have these. It's foam board and it's fantastic for making backdrops. So they come in, I believe, a 30 inches by about 20 inch big, large sheets. And if I'm making a backdrop, what I do is I just poke little holes into my boards on the big sheets, and I use just a tiny little bit of wire, and I do the next one and I connect that with just a tiny little bit of wire and kind of butt them up so that when they hang, they're all hanging on panels and then they're easy to store. I take them apart from the wire and I have just sheets of paper flowers, or in this case it's going to be poms that are going to be all here, and I'm going to do them in different sizes. And all I do is I use double-sided tape, and in this case it's double-sided mounting tape, so it's a little bit foamy, it's a little bit thicker, and I just attach a piece and attach it to my board. I love this stuff. It's always in my party kit. And I would just start attaching them, and then I'll fill in the other spaces with other sizes. And you can see they just hang. So you can do that, or attach them to a wall, or you can do any sort of backdrop. If you have a big wood piece, you could do that and just lean it up against your table, on your tabletop against the wall. So super easy party pom decor. I just jammed my finger against the table. Party pom decor. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Happy crafting. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll put the social media links to my pages in the description of the video. I'll also link in some other coffee filter projects to the end of this video so that you can see some paper flowers or how to color the coffee filters in a little more detail video. Happy crafting, guys. Cheers.